Welcome to the Kachmann Wellness Show. This is my usual 30 minutes, which I devote to stopping, preventing, reversing diabetes, mainly type 2. But this is a disease you want to get rid of. A lot of people do not know that they can, because their healthcare provider just writes them a script and see you in 6 months. And you get a blood test now and then. This diabetes can be prevented the majority of the time. Let's talk about a minute here about the difference between type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is where the pancreas is not working at all, okay? And then you must take insulin into your body to survive, to push the sugar into the cell for energy. So thank God we have insulin available now. Can type 1 diabetes be prevented? I mean, usually it occurs in younger people. It can even be almost present at birth, but it commonly occurs now in older people because the insulin shots they've been giving themselves are getting larger and larger and larger, and eventually the pancreas is totally dead, and they're getting all these chronic diseases because there's so much insulin in their body. Insulin does not just push sugar into the cell; it makes the cells stiff. It causes cancer. It causes dementia. It has a lot of side effects, so you want to not have to take insulin. The type 1 diabetic, where the pancreas went dead, it can be that most of the time they say it's an autoimmune disease, but it's also related by the things that are occurring to the child. Remember I said the adult. Milk drinkers have associated with them type 1 diabetes because the protein casein can cause a reaction in the pancreas. So can you anticipate that you might be getting it? If you were getting serum insulins, which is not common in children, you'd see the level going down, and maybe you could stop what you're eating. For example, gluten reacts. The gluten proteins will attach the pancreas. So there are causes of type 1 diabetes. Can be milk, can be gluten, a reaction to some medication or drug that you're taking. So it's not just an autoimmune disease. Type 2 diabetes is 90% of the diabetes we see today. I would encourage you to get at least yearly blood testing. If you're overweight, I would say odds are you are diabetic. And if you say, well, I'm not, my blood sugar is normal, my glucose tolerance test, where you swallow some sugar after fasting, check it fasting 1 hour, 2 hour, you say my glucose tolerance test is normal, my fasting blood sugar is normal. To me, that does not prove that you don't have diabetes. So if you're overweight, they tell you those 2 tests are negative, tell them I want a serum insulin, and maybe even a serum insulin tolerance test, just to be certain. And I can't encourage that enough. Most doctors in this country do not order a serum insulin. Mark Hyman, in his books, Blood Sugar Solutions, many other books that he wrote, he highly recommends it. And I kind of wonder if it's not been generally taught by the medical schools and everyone, not because they don't have the scientific facts. They do. I think industry will make less money. That's just what I'm thinking, okay? So get a serum insulin. I would suggest they even get them at a young age. And I explained to you why. Because a lot of diabetes, even type 2, begins at a very young age. And if you don't make the diagnosis and treat it properly, you can develop the complications of diabetes, and they can be asymptomatic. You can be asymptomatic, be having vascular disease all those years and brain problems without a proper diagnosis. Some of the original books I like to speak about now was written by Joseph R. Kraft, MD. I'm going to hold it up. You can go onto Amazon Books, and I don't seem to be able to order it anymore. That concerns me a bit, but I refer to it in my books, like Rudy's War on Diabetes over here. You could read that. I have the information you need is in there, but I gave away a number of the copies of this, and I tried to order some more, and I couldn't. This, to me, really is the Bible of diagnosing diabetes. He was at the University of Illinois, a pathologist, so he looked at the bottom line, the dead body who had died from diabetes, and he identified the pathology there, and then they gave him ideas, and then he studied about 14,000 people by his fellow doctors and his doctors by running 5 different curves of insulin had been discovered in 1920, and he started these studies in 1975 or so, and he ran different curves, 1 curve, 2, 3, and got the insulins, and then came up with some conclusions. And for example, he wrote on his book, normal fasting blood sugar, normal weight, normal cholesterol do not exclude you from being a type 2 diabetic, one of the undiagnosed millions. Yes, I do mean you. I think this is very important, that you get these tests done, because there's about 50 diseases caused by diabetes, and you don't want them, okay? And they can be avoided, they can be prevented, they can be stopped, they can be reversed, because many of them are very serious diseases. Let's go over them a little bit. Blindness, retinal disease. Mayor Adams from New York City just published a book, and he was diagnosed with diabetes, and the reason that it was diagnosed, he was going blind. He went to a doctor finally that ran blood tests on him and realized he's a diabetic. Some racial groups more commonly get diabetes, and if they're gaining weight, you got to be careful. If they're overweight, odds are they are diabetic. But 20% of the people, though, are of normal weight, haven't had the proper test, and they're diabetic. And they may be on the path to a diagnosis 15 years later, but the changes have already occurred in their body. Vascular streaks of fat are found in their blood vessels. They noticed that in the Vietnam and Korean War, of the Americans that died, they autopsied them. They found evidence of vascular disease in the Americans, but none in the Vietnamese and the Koreans, eating different food. And those patients were going to have progression as they got home and ate more of the American diet. A lot of Alzheimer's disease is due to sugar metabolism and the use of statin drugs, which lower the cholesterol. Our brain runs on cholesterol. So to learn something about the physiology of statins, I think, is very important. This is a good book. You can get in the library, and look how thick it is. But statins, toxic side effects, yes. To read the summary in there and read page 319, just the physiology of the statins and what they do, you will not believe it. Don't stop it or start it because I said so. But if your doctor doesn't want to stop the drug, have him read this book and look at least the summary, and you may change your mind. This is dramatic. Dental disease, most bacteria in the teeth, they live on sugar. That's their food. So there's increased dental disease in people eating a lot of sugar. Children, for example. I didn't know about it. I lost some teeth over it because I didn't learn about good dental care when I was a child. The dentist should be out there in every school, on TV, advertising what you should do to have good dental hygiene. I don't see their ads on the paper on prevention. Remember, one of my books I've recently written, Prevention is the Cure. Prevent the disease in the first place. Strokes, vascular disease, heart attacks are all related. Many of them are related to diabetes because blood sugar, which you get from sugary foods, cause increase in insulin. Insulin punches a hole in the innermost layer of your blood vessel, the intima, makes a hole, and that's the start of the atherosclerotic process. So diabetes is a big, almost every patient that develops vascular disease is a diabetic. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. Also, incidentally, the virus that's been attacking the world, and all viruses attack the world, sugar feeders. They have no metabolic system. They enter the animal or human cell, steal sugar, fatty acids made from sugar, and steal some of their gene, and they multiply. So the most likely person to die from a viral infection, it can be the flu or the coronavirus, no matter what, more likely to die if they're diabetic because they have more sugar in the cells than most of us. You may be vaccinated and have a low chance of an infection, but it's higher because you're diabetic. That's been well proven. Thyroid disease, breast cancer is related to diabetes. Cancer is a sugar feeder. Otto Warburg, yes, 1934, published papers that it takes 13 molecules of sugar to create one ATP. That's the energy molecule. So cancer likes a lot more sugar. That's been well known, but you don't hear much about it. What you hear about is give them a chemotherapy drug when the majority of cancers could be prevented by avoiding diabetes, for example, or eating sugary foods all the time. Renal disease is related a lot to diabetes. Most of the time, renal disease has 5 stages, 1 through 5. The first 3, we have no symptoms. So doctors are not ordering the test for it. They should order the test for it, and the reason being, it's a lot easier if you're stage 2 and you're diabetic, get rid of your diabetes, and your stage 2 will stay there or get to stage 1 instead of progressing to 3 to 4 to 5. At stage 4, you may need dialysis. At stage 5, you may need new kidneys. And believe me, those lives are complex, and that could be avoided. I would suggest proper blood testing at least every year, unless you have a disease and get more than that. And I call it Dr. Rudy's prevention is to cure series of blood tests, which include blood sugar, serum insulins, HbA1c, HSCRP, that's C-reactive protein, which is elevated early in all types of inflammation in the body. And it gives you a clue as to that some disease is occurring in your body, and you can do something about it. Most cancers are sugar feeders. Liver cancer, kidney cancer, bowel disease, ovarian cancers, breast cancer, as already mentioned. And insulin and sugars will cause arthritis in the joints. And remember, I said vascular disease, amputations, dislocations. Most of those who have these things done are diabetics. Impotency, 3 years before diagnosis. And one of the first symptoms of vascular disease, frankly, is hearing loss. Most of Meniere's disease, hearing loss, even at a young age, is related to complications of high sugar diseases. This is a good one to know because the ear has the smallest blood vessel. You can influence the baby is going to be born that's in your uterus by what the mother is eating. If she's eating a bad diet or smoking or drinking a lot and eating a bad diet of high sugary foods, that will affect the infant, and the infant may be born diabetic. Infant may be born overweight, underweight. This is all related to the type of food. It's called epigenetics. What the mother is eating can change the genetic structure of an infant in the uterus. This is something you will not believe. Only 5% of the genetic script, which determines your DNA, that directs what's going on in your body, is written at conception. 95% is what is happening afterwards, whether the mother is listening to music or singing a song, or there's consternation in the house, what she's eating, what she's drinking, what she's smoking, all affect the infant through epigenetics upon your genes. You can see Dr. Kraft, you can see him on YouTube. He's 92 years old, speaking to Dr. Cummings, the biggest obesity doctor in the nation, and he's died since that year, about 95 or so. But this to me is the Bible of diabetes prevention, reversal, because he discusses the original detail and the proof to get your insulin checked, I think, early in life, even as a teenager, is critical. Put it in a book or on a computer and then follow it every year. And if it changes, then look into it further. I have some other books here. If you're suppose you're way overweight, but even if you're not, this is an excellent book because it has recipes in what you can eat. I like really Simply Keto, Susan Ryan. Great book to read. She lost 100 pounds. Look at her now. It looks great. And what she has in there, about 30 pages, that explains the ketone way of eating, and recipes and pictures, 30 pages of explanation what that's all about. And let me tell you this about to reverse diabetes quickly. I like fasting, 2 meals a day. In ancient times, that's all we ate. We didn't eat 3 meals a day. The reason being, and I like fasting 16 8, or time-regulated eating, where you don't eat for 16 hours. You don't have to be rigid about it. What I do is eat breakfast, lunch. No, the breakfast is my lunch together, and an evening meal, whether 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, occasionally 8. I don't obsess about that. But what happens in that 16 hours is that your blood sugar goes down, your insulin level goes down. Because the insulin level goes down, the fat cells open up, and the fat cells go to the liver and get converted to ketones. That's what you use in energy then. So after about 8 hours, you're in sugar metabolism, you're in ketone metabolism. That is a lot more energetic. The brain loves to work on it. Your muscles love it, and you're losing weight and getting rid of your diabetes. And you can get rid of diabetes in about a month or so. So I think that's a great way. And you can read other books on it, but Simply Keto with Susan Ryan, she even has the amount of calories in the diet. And remember, what I am teaching is to eat about 65% fat, about 20% protein, and 15% vegetables and fruit. When you read some of the other books around, that they all want you to eat vegetables and they're the most wonderful thing in the world. Well, they are wonderful things, especially fresh ones, but they actually have quite a bit of sugar in them. Mm-hmm. So fats don't raise your insulin level, for example. So eating good fats, guacamole and peppers, and there's a whole big list in there, and 2 meals a day. I feel very energetic in the morning. I pick them all 4 days a week. I feel very energetic. My appetite is down because if you're metabolizing mainly good fats, your appetite doesn't increase or decrease that much. In the morning, when you wake up, your pituitary hypothalamus secretes growth hormone that raises the blood sugar a little bit. The adrenal gland knows that the day is coming and is secreting some steroids. And the pancreas secretes glucagon, the opposite of insulin, and your blood sugar is like that. That's why you're not hungry. Your body is undergoing autophagia. They're cleansing the cells, building new cells, cleaning cancer cells out of there if you have any of those. We all do, incidentally. We make them every day. Our body just destroys them. And yes, that's true. Sorry to say that, but that's true. Repair cells. And then eat lunch and dinner. If you ate one of those 2 meals healthy, it's almost irrelevant what you eat for the third one, and your diabetes will go away in about a month. Don't accept the pill culture. And another thing, if you have diabetes, a good idea is to get a glucose monitor. And the best one, I think, is Dexcom G6, because you can go on your phone and just go like that, and you just had a meal, and an hour or 2 later, you look at it and see what the blood sugar is. You'll know if you ate something really bad, and you won't eat that again. I think that is very helpful. And they keep graphs, and you can know what happened the last month or so. I mean, the other monitors there, but I just think that's other ones we got to stick yourself every day. And the Dexcom 6, you need to stick yourself with a needle you can't even feel. Up there, they put a little coin-size, quarter-size patch there, and you take your phone, go like that, say, oh, blood sugar's 140. I guess that food wasn't so good. It's a good teaching tool. And if you're on insulin especially, you will know, because if your blood sugar goes way down, that can be deadly. So you want to be, what's going on here? And to have the Dexcom 6, I think, is a good idea. I know of 2 or 3 people now that have it who come up to me and thank me for mentioning it. Another book I found very helpful written by a PhD, Tom Jelinek, type 2 diabetes and a 90-day cure. I mean, wouldn't you want to be cured of this? 90 days. It's very scientific and explains metformin and insulin, drugs you've been on, drugs you probably will get off within a few weeks once you follow this way. He even has recipes in there. I highly recommend that book. He talks about exercise and effects of the diabetes on different parts of your body, including the eye, for example. I think it's very great book. And an extra craft, I consider that to be excellent. The science of it is very well explained in the Diabetes Code by Jason Fung. He is he's in Canada, and this is interesting. He was a kidney doctor. Remember what I mentioned about kidney disease? We're just letting people have kidney disease. We don't teach them how to prevent it. They just want you to get to stage 4 and 5 so they can dialyze you and then give you a new kidney. And then you get to see the doctor all the time. That to me, kidney disease is a scam. And yeah, I mean it. Take me up on it. I've studied this field. And so he was a renal doctor, and he realized all the patients he was seeing were diabetics. Now I'm saying you can prevent and stop reverse diabetes 90% of the time. So you could avoid kidney disease 90% of the time. That's true. But nobody's doing it. And Jason Fong's doing it. So he was a kidney doctor, and he saw mainly diabetics. So he switched fields. He now treats mainly diabetics. He runs a huge clinic and has YouTube shows and everything. You can see him on YouTube again and again. Jason Fong. I highly recommend you get to know Dr. Fong. You will gain a lot of information. To get all this done, you need some information, but I put up for you some great books. I don't want you to have these complications of diabetes. They are avoidable. You will live at least 20, 30 years longer. Your last 20 years of life will be most likely not be with these horrible complications I talked about. If you continue with the diabetes and the drugs you think are working, your doctor thinks you're working, you will still die about 20 years younger, and you will have some of these disabilities. What I'm saying is the medicines help a little bit, but what you want to be is rid of this problem so that you will be healthy, live to be 100, play pickleball with me, and give me a hug or walk up to me at some restaurant and say, Dr. Kachmann, thank you. I no longer have diabetes. That occurs to me almost every day. I saw a patient today that told me that it can be done, and I want you to do it because I love you, care about you. See you in about 2 weeks. I run this half-hour show on diabetes, probably now for 13 or so years. It's helped a lot of people. I got a phone call the other day from India. They want to use this information and teach people over there, translate it in many different languages. I'm still flying because of that phone call. I love you. Merry Christmas to you. Namaste.